Okay, break head. Let's get back into it. The only other 6 mana card, Starfire. Costs 6 mana, as I explained. Deal 5 damage and draw a card. Most people might consider this card, not as good. You're not even getting the 1 damage per mana mark that, as I explained earlier, you kind of want to hit and usually exceed in order to say, that a card is getting value. However, because Starfire draws you a card, it can be extremely useful because not only does it just deal 5 damage, but it can draw you another answer to combo with it. So, even though it doesn't hit that, it doesn't exceed that 1 damage per 1 mana mark that you usually must exceed with a card for it to be considered valuable, this actually is, because it instantly replaces itself with a new card. So, all in all, I like it. It's not one of my favorites, but usually it is, at least, again, like Starfall, at least one is run in most pro-grade Druid decks. For that exact reason, it's useful. Ancient of War. Costs 7 mana. The 5/5 is absolutely not what's going to happen when you summon it. Battle Cry. Choose one. You either give it +5 attack, which will turn it into a 10/5. This usually isn't done when playing the card, because it's not that hard to deal 5 damage. We just saw right there, where is it? Literally right here, Starfire, pointing to it. Just, wait, right, there, Starfire. So hard to do these things with webcams. Yeah, there's a lot of ways to deal 5 damage, and so it doesn't matter that you have 10 attack, because usually your opponent will just use a spell to deal that 5 damage, and then it's just gone. You wasted 7 mana. The other option you have is to give it +5 health and taunt. A 5/10 with taunt? That's pretty crazy, considering most minions don't even have more than 5 health. Like, that's something that isn't common. So, having a 5/10 with taunt, that's extremely hard to deal with too, because there's exactly one card in this game that deals 10 damage all on its own. And that is Pyroblast from Mages. That costs 10 mana. So, that can't even be played if you play this on turn 7. That leaves your opponent to instantly have to answer it with some other card. And, yeah, most decks will have some kind of answer to that kind of thing. But, even so, either you're going to get an extremely strong minion, or you're going to force an answer out of your opponent when you play this card. So, this is also in my top 5. It's just one of my favorites because, again, it's a minion that's versatile and which can, a 5/10 with taunt. Just need I say more? That is outrageous. Like, that should just blow your mind that you could summon that kind of creature. But that's Druids. You can, because you're a Druid. The other 7-drop that Druids have is Ancient of Lore. 7 mana. Battlecry, choose one, draw 2 cards, or restore 5 health. Usually, people will use him to draw 2 cards, a reason being, at worst, your opponent immediately answers the Ancient of Lore. I called him Druid of Lore earlier, didn't I? I'm sorry. Ancient of Lore. Yeah, if you use him to draw 2 cards, you immediately not only replace him with a new card, but draw another card on top of that. So that's instantly 2 card value. On top of that, your opponent still has a 5/5 to deal with, so even if they deal with it, that's still, they wasted a card dealing with it now. So usually this card will get a value of 3 cards or more just out of playing it, and that's, as with Nourish, it's incredible. That's incredibly high value. So, yeah. Great card. Just absolutely fantastic card. We have Ironbark Protector. Costs 8 mana. It's an 8/8 with taunt. Druid's really big on this, by the way, having creatures that have taunt, whose stats do not suffer for having the stat. An 8/8 with taunt, that's just evil, I guess. There is literally no other card in the game that can have that much health and attack together. Not even attack. Literally the only card that has more than... I think 5 attacks the max for all other cards that have taunt. Just naturally. Where this has 8 attack and taunt. Any creature that attacks this thing is going to be in danger of dying, basically, because there's almost no creatures in this game that have more than 8 health. There is a couple, but not that many. And even so, if one of those creatures attacks this thing, it's now down to, you know, at the highest health in the game on creatures is 12 health. Even if that attacks this card, it's now down to 4, which is extremely easy to answer. You know, just swipe that. So yeah, it can be really, really useful. And it's a good card. I'm not going to say it's great, but... And I'm not going to say it's great because it's very expensive, 8 mana. You're not going to be playing this thing until pretty late in the game, and you would darn well better have board control already by the time you play this, otherwise your opponent will just, you know, sacrifice 2 minions into it, and then with the rest of their minions on the field keep attacking you, and it's... there you go, that's a turn wasted. However, all in all, it's still a good card, and I do like it. Last Druid card, Cenarius. It is legendary, so I mean, this is not going to be an easy card to acquire. I was lucky enough to just kind of get it out of a pack. Costs 9 mana, 5/8, that will not change as a stat. Battle Cry, you get to choose one. Give your other minions +2/+2, which is pretty crazy, especially if you have more than 2 other minions on the field. You know, you can immediately get a Cenarius that just buffed your field for +6/+6, if you have 3 or more minions. And it can go higher than that, you know, if you have more than 3 minions. Or, if you don't really have that many minions on the field, you can summon 2 2/2 treants with Taunt. So, that can kind of give you some breathing room sometimes if you really need that kind of card value. So yeah, Cenarius is pretty versatile, and it's a 5/8. I mean, that's a pretty powerful card. And, yeah, it is noteworthy. Just to put emphasis on it, it says give your other minions +2/+2. Cenarius will not buff himself. So, if you plan on playing him to create 7/10, that's not going to happen. Otherwise, Cenarius would just be crazy powerful. That's too good. Too good. But yeah, Cenarius, great card. Absolutely fantastic card. And that's it for today. That's all the Druid cards. So, we're done reviewing Druids.